Good morning, Jess.
Morning, Father. How are you?
I'm doing okay. We are between masses to explain to people. Today is Sunday. We just celebrated Mass at 8, and it's a long gospel this week.
It is. I lost count of how many slides went up.
You were doing the slides.
It was, yeah.
It's one of these three gospels that we begin today and the next 2 weeks. It's cycle A, but also when Aperis has candidates for full, true catechumens for the RCIA, the Rite of Christian Initiation of Adults. And these three long gospels, I said at the homily that it's good that because the length and the language prepares us for Holy Week, I believe.
Right, for the Easter Vigil, where typically you'll hear nine readings.
Here we do 7, but yeah.
That's all right.
So what would you say about this gospel? What would be good to complement the homily more than repeating what we said?
Sure. So this is one of my favorite Lenten readings. I love Cycle A. Cycle A is my favorite because, I love the RCIA. And you mentioned that it's really about encountering Jesus, which is why we use it for the RCIA. But for me, I think he really chose to have this encounter with not just any woman, but a Samaritan woman, because the Jews looked upon Samaritans as worse than Gentiles because they were Jews who worshipped incorrectly. And so for him to go to a Samaritan woman who's by herself at the well in the middle of the day, where women don't typically go to get water in the middle of the day, it's too hot. Everything he did was very calculated. I think John presents this gospel to us as kind of a chance encounter, but it wasn't to me.
I think it is. It's the Gospels always work at different levels, and I think there is the casual encounter that you see today, but also a reference to what Jesus wants. He wants to recover the Samaritans for the house of Israel.
Right. What does he say? Obvious. Salvation is from the Jews.
Yeah. At some point he says that, but then at some point he also says, and that's why we need to learn how to read John's Gospel, but it says that you worship in one place, the Jews worship in another. I'm telling you, you can worship God everywhere. I think that's part of what Jesus says in today's
Gospel. Yeah, he's saying pretty soon this won't even be an argument anymore.
The homily is about encounters because I think this Gospel helps us to shape or to model our encounter with Jesus, but also our encounter with Jesus through others, not our encounter with others in the end.
Yeah, with each other.
And I always thought faith groups was initiated, I think 8 or 9 years ago in this parish, with that idea that people will encounter each other. But it is true that it brought people together in a very special way. And that's why we did it, to facilitate encounter.
Right.
What else do we need to tell our people today?
I just love the reminder of seeing God in each other in this gospel. We call it the Imago Dei, the image of God in each person, and then sometimes it's something I struggle with because I'm human. Yeah.
You are an opinionated human.
Yeah, I am, which gets me in trouble. But it's a good reminder that we need to see God in each person we meet, and to God each person is infinitely precious, even if they aren't to us.
It's interesting also, I believe, and that's why I reflected about it in the homily, all the barriers that these two need to. You mentioned the one of being a Jew and being a Samaritan, but barriers of gender, barriers of culture, ethnicity, and how you think about today, our political opinions create divisions. So I think it's very interesting to see how difficult the encounter. One thought I had is that look at the conversations we have. I don't know, this is a great conversation between these two. They speak about history, they speak about their past, the woman's past. It's a very intense conversation, and that's what makes the encounter great, no?
Right.
Whereas sometimes we find ourselves, we don't talk to strangers, generally.
Right.
We teach our children danger, stranger danger,
Stranger
right?
danger, yeah.
And even when we do interact with someone, I don't know if we look for that intensity in language. For me, it's also very interesting that of course, there is the symbology of water, but this dialogue begins with a very human need.
Right.
I believe some commentators would say that Jesus engages the woman on a common need for water, for a thirst, no? And again, at several levels, the physical level of being thirsty, but also the thirst that you need to keep in life to engage, to keep seeking for answers, and I think that's part of what the gospel is telling us as well, no?
Yeah.
Once we settle, once we say we have all the answers, as a church, we say we have answers for everything, I think we are in trouble. That's when we get comfortable.
Right. Right. And at another level, that reference to the living water is a reference to the baptism that he's going to give us as a sacrament, as a sacramental church. He says, I am the living water. That's how we bring people into communion with him, is through the waters of baptism.
Which brings us in common, and baptism washes away, using a water image, all the other differences, right?
Right.
Differences of gender, difference of, look at you and I, for instance. We are, the biggest barrier is generational, no? How many times I call you my favorite millennial.
At least have your favorite
for some of the things you do. But we are from different generations. We were born in different countries. You are a married woman. I'm a single man. I'm a priest. You are a lay person. I was born in another continent. You were born here, from different families. But how we come together with a common baptism to try to develop a vision and a mission here. I don't know if people know this, but you're in charge of the questions. I edit very little what you propose. And normally, just to give a little bit more context, you are a very straight person, and I am.
You called me too formal.
I add some things so that people know where the question connects, how the question connects with the gospel. But you are the one who presents the question. What do you think one of these questions is going to be?
Well, I think one of the good practical questions is discussing a past time in our lives when we've encountered someone who's very different from us and how we overcame that.
It's one of the most, certainly it's a good question, and I think a very direct reference to today's gospel. Yeah. Anyway, this is session 3. Next week we will meet again with another a great gospel, the man born blind. And I already know what I'm going to preach.
Good.
Those gospels are fantastic,
Yeah,
simply fantastic.
I love cycle A for Lent. So
I want to finish this with the prayer that this community will become an RCIA community. I think if I look back to my time here, it's probably one of the areas where I feel that we tried many things, but it's very difficult, the context, the many parishes in town, whatever it is, but we, again, don't have anybody at the Easter Vigil. Yeah. And that's sad. And
it is sad. We ought to have someone at every Easter Vigil. So
maybe we pray to the Samaritan woman, an unnamed saint, that we will do what she does, which is to go back to the town and tell everybody about Jesus.
Yeah, we talked about this a little bit on Friday, how you can promote things at the parish, you can, put announcements up, you can do all of those things, but the most surefire way to bring someone into anything is to go up to them and just ask.
The invitation. And the statistics confirm this.
Yeah.
The biggest growth for parishes is through the personal invitation of a member.
Right.
Anyway, see you next week, Jess.
See you next week.
Take care.
You too.